We are Inclusion Ireland, the National Association for People with an Intellectual Disability. And this is our report, The Pathway to Inclusive Education. Inclusive education is very important to us at Inclusion Ireland. Our vision is for a time when all children get to go to school together and receive whatever support they need to do this. In Ireland, we are reviewing the Education for Persons with Special Educational Needs Act, or EPSN, this year. This is the time to begin the pathway to inclusion. Our children and young people have the right to learn in their local school with other children in their community. This includes all children and any support that they need to do that. This is written into Article 24 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is also known as the UNCRPD. What does inclusion mean? In an inclusive model of education, all children are met where they are. Ways of teaching are flexible and can be adapted to suit the diverse and changing needs of all students. At Inclusion Ireland, we believe that inclusive education is rights-based, includes all children no matter what level of support they need, values diversity, flexible, student-centred, and a good support for students and staff. Inclusion doesn't aim to force two different systems of education together, but to create a new system that supports all children to have their right to be educated with their peers realised. During our research, we asked, what stands in the way of inclusive education? What helps inclusive education work in schools? What needs to change over the next 10 years so that all children can go to school together? We listened to your answers and made some recommendations. Child's voice and participation. The child's voice should always be heard and acted upon. There needs to be a children's advocacy service made. All education policies should be child-centred, and children should be involved in making these policies. Planning rather than reacting. The government need to show us their plan for the pathway to inclusive education, with steps, costs, and departments working together. We need them to keep talking to organisations, families, and students to keep them informed. Information about what is happening in schools and education needs to be accessible and available. Child-centred environments. Education needs to move away from system-focused and towards child-led. School buildings need to be designed with flexibility and child-centred learning in mind. Universal design for learning as a key principle. And children need to be free to move, because learning can happen anywhere. Leadership. Leaders in education must champion inclusive education and keep us moving on the path. These leaders can be found at all levels, from inside schools to the government. They need to be brave and creative, because there are lots of challenges. Attitudes. Advocacy organisations need to say clearly what inclusive education is. We need to support everyone to understand what inclusive education means and how important it is for all children in the community. Advocacy organisations and schools need to share stories of where children with higher support needs are truly included in their local community, so people can trust that this is possible. Resources: more SNAs, smaller classes, and more teachers. Health, social care, and education systems must work together and have what they need to support all children in their lives. Real inclusion will happen when we use the money and the things we have in creative ways that are child-led. The government must put more money into inclusive models of practice. Training and education of staff. Build time for learning new ways of doing things into school days. Our teachers need to be supported to learn and grow just as the students do. We must provide lots of chances and ways for our SNAs, teachers, and other people who work in education to learn new skills. These must be up to date and keep the child at the heart of everything. Policy and legislation reform. The Epsom Act and the Disability Act need to be reviewed to bring them in line with promises made by the government under the UN CRPD. There needs to be policy that stops any child being harmed in any way. Policy should support children to access their rights so that each child can learn and grow in the way that is best for them. The Inclusive Education Alliance and next steps. We are working towards a fully inclusive model of education. This means that we will work towards a future where all children go to school together, no matter what level of support they may happen to need. We believe that we will be more effective if we can work together as disabled people, disabled persons organisations, families, policymakers, and advocates. Would you like to join the Inclusive Education Alliance or learn more about it? Contact us to sign up by emailing info@inclusionireland.ie. A registration form will then be sent to you to complete. Inclusion Ireland works towards the full inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities by supporting people to have their voices heard and advocating for rights under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. For more information, you can find our website at www.inclusionireland.ie. For news and events, check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.